right, let's dive in. Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're tackling a topic that's both stylish and, dare I say, deep. We're going to be looking at how culture shapes fashion and vice versa. We've got a fantastic script packed with insights, and I am so ready to unpack it all.
I think we're going to uncover some really fascinating stuff. It's easy to think of fashion as just clothes, but it's so much more than that, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's like a language,
Huh.
a way of communicating who we are and where we come from. And this script really drives that point home by taking us way back, like ancient civilizations back. I was amazed to see how much meaning was woven into clothing even then.
Oh, yeah, totally. Think about something like a Japanese kimono, right? All those flowing lines and intricate patterns aren't just there to look pretty. They symbolize things like grace and heritage. And even the way a kimono is wrapped and tied, it all has meaning, reflecting their cultural values like precision and order.
It's like you're wearing a piece of history, a whole story in fabric. And the script also talks about Indian saris, which I have always found stunning, but had no idea about all the symbolism packed into those incredible designs.
Yeah, saris are a great example. The embroidery, the colors, even the way it's draped, it can all change depending on the region in India. It's like a visual map of local craftsmanship and traditions.
Wow, I never knew that. It's like each region has its own unique fashion dialect.
Exactly. And that idea of symbolism extends to colors too. Like, think about white. It's often associated with mourning in some Asian cultures, but in many Western cultures, it represents purity.
Oh, that's so true. That totally explains why you see those different color associations at, like, weddings and funerals across cultures.
Right. And even today, those color associations influence how we dress, even if we don't realize it.
It's amazing how these subtle things can shape our choices without us even knowing. Okay, so we've got fashion as this visual language going all the way back. But what about the impact of religion? That's got to be a huge influence, right?
Absolutely. I mean, look at Islamic culture. Modesty is super important, and that's reflected in clothing like the abaya and the hijab, right? It's more than just a piece of fabric. It's part of a person's identity, tied to their faith.
And you see that across so many religions. Think about ceremonial robes, you know. They often
Yeah.
carry deep symbolism. It's like wearing a physical representation of your beliefs.
Totally. It's like you're connecting to a whole spiritual heritage through what you wear.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
But the world is so much more interconnected now. So how has this connection between fashion and culture changed with globalization, with styles from all over the planet blending together?
Well, it's created this really cool fusion of styles, right? The script calls it out and gives the example of bohemian fashion. It's like this amazing mix of like Eastern embroidery and African prints, and then thrown in with Western tailoring.
It's like this global conversation happening through clothes.
Exactly. And actually, there's a quote in here from a fashion designer who says, fashion is a dialogue between cultures. They talk about how they try to incorporate things like African beadwork into European silhouettes as a way of honoring both traditions.
Oh, I love that. It's about appreciation, not appropriation.
Yeah, totally. And you see more and more designers becoming aware of that. But of course, pop culture and media have a huge influence on what we wear now. What do you think about how they're changing the way we see culture through fashion?
Well, you just can't ignore how things like hip hop culture have impacted, say, streetwear. It's gone from something very specific to being seen on high fashion runways. It shows how pop culture can spread trends globally so fast.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just Western culture either. Bollywood has done so much to introduce things like lehengas and saris to people who might not have known about them before. And then you've got social media, of course.
Social media is like a whole other world of fashion. Trends can go viral overnight, and you'll suddenly see people all over wearing something inspired by a culture they might not even know much about. It's
It
crazy.
really is. It's like a fashion melting pot. But that also means we have to be super careful about that fine line between appreciating and appropriating.
Right. It's a conversation that keeps coming up, and for good reason.
Oh, for sure. It's one thing to be like inspired by a different culture's clothing, but it's totally different to just take elements without understanding their significance or giving credit where it's due.
Exactly. It's about context, about knowing the stories behind the designs, and making sure everyone's being treated fairly. It can't just be about profit. It's about respect and understanding.
Absolutely. I think that's a really important note to end this part of our discussion on. It's clear that the connection between fashion and culture is complex and ever evolving. Totally. And there's so much more to explore, but for now, I think that's a good place to pause. Okay, so thinking about the future of fashion, where do we even begin? This script hints at some pretty wild possibilities.
I know, right? I was particularly struck by the idea of technology, like really changing how we express ourselves through clothes. Like, what if fabrics could change color based on your mood? Or clothes could adapt to different climates?
Oh, that's not as far-fetched as you might think. We're already seeing those kinds of innovations popping up. There are these smart textiles being developed, with sensors woven right in. They can do things like track your heart rate or, like you said, adjust to temperature changes.
That's mind-blowing. It's like, where does fashion end and technology begin?
Seriously. It's super exciting, but it also makes you think about, things like accessibility and sustainability. Will everyone be able to afford these high-tech clothes, or will it create an even bigger divide?
Yeah, that's a good point. And what about the environmental impact of all this new tech? We don't want to be, like, sacrificing the planet for the sake of a cool new jacket that can change colors.
Right. And that kind of leads into this other big thing the script talks about. Slow fashion and conscious consumption. It's like the opposite of fast fashion.
Well,
It's about buying less, buying better quality stuff that lasts longer, and really thinking about where your clothes come from.
it's like a total shift in mindset, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like more and more people are starting to get on board with it. They're looking for, like, clothes with a story, clothes that are made with care and respect for the planet.
Absolutely. It's about wanting authenticity and transparency, like knowing who made your clothes and how they were made.
Totally. So we've got these, like, super futuristic innovations happening and this push for slower, more mindful fashion.
Mm.
Where do you see these two things intersecting in the future? Like, how can technology make fashion more sustainable?
Well, there are already some really cool things happening. Like 3D printing is being used to create clothes with way less waste. And there's a lot of research going on into creating new fabrics out of recycled materials.
Wait, so you're telling me I could be wearing a shirt made out of, like, recycled plastic bottles?
Exactly. Or even agricultural waste, like stuff that would normally just be thrown away.
That's amazing. It's like turning trash into treasure.
Right. And
Mhm.
technology can also help with tracking supply chains so you can really see where the materials are coming from and make sure everyone involved is being treated fairly.
It's like giving power back to the consumer, right?
Yeah.
We can finally make informed choices and support brands that are actually doing good.
Yeah.
But we've talked a lot about, like, the practical, eco-friendly side of things.
Mhm.
What about the cultural side? How do you see cultural influences evolving in the future of fashion?
Oh, I think things are about to get even more interesting. I definitely think we'll see more fusion of different styles as designers from all over the world continue to collaborate and share ideas.
It's like this global fashion tapestry constantly being woven and rewoven.
Exactly. And social media is going to continue to be a huge part of that. Platforms like TikTok and Instagram are already like major platforms for discovering new designers and trends from all corners of the globe.
It's really cool. It's like democratizing fashion, giving a voice to designers who might not have had that opportunity before. But with all this cultural exchange, it feels like the issue of appropriation becomes even more crucial.
Right,
So,
absolutely. We have to be extra careful and have those conversations about respect and sensitivity. And you know what? Technology can actually play a role in that too.
oh, really? How so?
Okay, imagine this. You're shopping online and you see a dress with a really cool pattern. But before you buy it, you can use augmented reality to learn about the history and cultural significance of that pattern. Or you could use blockchain technology to track the origin of the materials and make sure the artisans who made it were paid fairly.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like using technology to actually promote ethical fashion.
Right. It's all about transparency and empowerment. So to me, the future of fashion really boils down to this, finding that sweet spot between innovation, sustainability, and cultural awareness.
It's about building a fashion industry that is inclusive, respectful, and leaves a positive impact on the world.
Exactly. It's a big challenge, but I think it's totally possible if we keep having these conversations, pushing boundaries, and working together.
I totally agree. And I think it's so important for people to remember that they're not just passive consumers. They have a real voice in this. Their choices matter.
Absolutely. Every time you buy something, you're making a statement. You're supporting certain values and practices. And collectively, those choices add up and can really shape the future of fashion.
It's like this ripple effect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we move forward, let's all try to do it with a sense of responsibility. Be curious, ask questions, and make choices that align with the kind of fashion industry you want to see.
I love that. I think that's a perfect note to, well, maybe not end on, but to transition into the final part of our discussion. It's kind of wild to think how much we've uncovered just in this one deep dive. We started talking about, like, ancient symbols and the influence of religion, and now we're, like, envisioning a future with clothes made from recycled plastic and fabrics that can like react to your emotions.
It really shows you how fashion is always changing, right? It's like this mirror reflecting all these shifts in culture, technology, and even like our values.
Totally. And as we start to see those influences more clearly, it changes how we see the clothes we wear, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's like we've cracked a secret code, you know? Suddenly, every piece of clothing has a story to tell. And it's not just about, like, trends or looking good. It's about history, culture, even the future.
It's like fashion archaeology, like digging through all those layers of meaning woven into every stitch.
I love that. And it's something we can all do, you know? Whether you're, like, a hardcore fashionista or just starting to pay attention to what's in your closet.
Okay, so let's talk practical stuff. How can we actually use what we've learned in our everyday lives? What are some things people can do to like engage with fashion in a more mindful, meaningful way?
Well, for me, it all starts with awareness.
Hmm.
Next time you're out shopping for clothes, really stop and think about some of the things we've discussed. Where was this made? Who made it? What are the materials? Is there a story behind the design?
It's about like looking beyond the surface,
Mm.
right? Thinking about the impact of those choices we make.
Exactly. And beyond just what you buy, I think it's super important to like actually talk about these things, you know. Have conversations with your friends, your family, your coworkers, share what you've learned, listen to other people's perspectives.
Yeah, it's all about creating that dialogue, right?
Hmm.
That space where we can learn and grow together. And of course, putting our money where our mouth is, right? Supporting those brands that are actually walking the walk when it comes to ethical and sustainable practices.
Absolutely. There are so many incredible designers out there who are pushing boundaries while also being mindful of like the environment, fair labor, cultural sensitivity. It's amazing to see.
And social media can be such a great tool for finding those brands, right?
Yeah.
And for connecting with other people who care about the same things.
Yeah, totally. It's a way to amplify those voices, celebrate diversity, and really push for change in the industry. So much good stuff is happening.
It's so inspiring to see. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really hope sticks with our listeners? What's that final takeaway you want them to carry with them?
I'd say remember this. Fashion is a powerful way to express yourself, but it can also be a force for positive change in the world. Use your choices to tell your story, support ethical practices, and celebrate the incredible beauty of our diverse cultures.
I love that. It's a powerful reminder that fashion is more than just trends, right?
Yeah.
It's about who we are, where we come from, what we believe in.
And it has this incredible potential to connect us, to inspire us, to empower us. It's pretty amazing when you think about it.
It really is. Well, thank you so much for taking us on this journey. It's been such an eye-opening experience. I feel like I have a whole new understanding of what fashion is all about.
The pleasure was all mine. And to everyone listening, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep using your style to make the world a more beautiful, more just, more awesome place.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until next time, stay curious, stay stylish, and stay engaged with the world.